to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Cases climbed last spring. They climbed again in the summer. They will climb now if we stop taking precautions when we continue to get more and more people vaccinated.
Dr. Walensky says the U.S. needs to take lessons from other countries who are seeing surges now after she says they took their eye off the ball. 3 people have died. 6 others are hurt after a driver lost control in downtown San Diego and drove onto a sidewalk near a homeless encampment.
Officers detained the driver of the vehicle involved in this collision. He self-identified himself, and at this moment he is being detained for driving while impaired.
Police Chief David Nisley, the driver's name has not been released. UConn women's basketball coach Gino Auriemma has tested positive for COVID-19. Wall Street, the Dow gained 174. America is listening to Fox News.
If you're using anything other than Indeed for your hiring, you are wasting your time. Hire great people faster with Indeed. Only pay for results and get back time in your schedule. Indeed.com helps you find quality candidates instantly with Indeed Instant Match. Indeed searches through the millions of resumes in their database to help show you great candidates instantly. Get started right now with a free $75 credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Fox. Indeed.com/Fox. Offer valid through March 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
More than 150 people arrested in Florida, apparently ignoring COVID restrictions.
Large crowds of unruly spring breakers have gathered in Miami Beach, disregarding COVID-19 safety measures and facing off with police, who responded with pepper spray on Friday night as they tried to clear a street. Miami Beach Mayor Dan Gelber called it a difficult situation, warning that people shouldn't become complacent about the pandemic, something that was echoed by Dr. Anthony Fauci on Fox News Sunday.
If you look at the numbers, we are not out of the woods yet. When you pull back on all mitigation methods, on all public health guidelines, that's when you get into trouble. I mean, history has proven that.
Miami Beach is still under a midnight curfew due to the pandemic. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Health officials in Arizona are reporting no new virus deaths today and 638 more confirmed cases, one of the state's lowest figures in months. Many schools in the state open for in-person learning today. Governor Doug Ducey issued the order for them to open earlier this month, citing the vaccination of many teachers. Unemployment fraud has reached unprecedented levels.
$63 billion paid out in bogus claims or errors since March of 2020. That's according to the U.S. Labor Department. Criminals using someone else's identity, stealing much-needed benefits. States flooded with claims using new rules and outdated systems are struggling to keep up. Eva Velasquez is the CEO of Identity Theft Resource Center, a nonprofit that helps victims of identity theft. She urges everyone to be...
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
North, an extremely vocal opponent of gay marriage, drew fire during his 2010 re-election campaign for saying that the legalization of gay marriage would lead to man-horse marriages. In one instance, he told the New Haven Register, quote, "It's a slippery slope. If we allow 2 men to marry, what's next? Men marrying horses?" But yesterday, North found himself at the center of a media firestorm when the New York Times published photos of North on what appears to be romantic outings with a horse. Gathered during the Times' 2-month investigation, the pictures show North in almost a dozen locations with the same 3-year-old mare. A former aide discovered links to numerous horse-related sites, including phillyfreaks.com and hothindquarters.com on North's work computer. The Times is accusing North of using federal funds to pay for luxurious trips, including a 3-night stay at the high-end Sueños stables in Catalonia, Spain last month. North released a statement yesterday claiming he only spent time with the horse twice while conducting research for his anti-gay marriage project.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Yes, it is. Free Talk Live. The live call-in radio talk program where you can take control of the airwaves and talk about whatever is on your mind. The telephone number here in studio is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160 if you would like to join us on the airwaves and on internet streams and some satellite broadcasts in the conversations that we will have today. In the studio, it is myself. I am your host, the Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me,
it's Ian.
And nobody.
And I purposefully sandbagged this specific article because, well, nobody and Ian, I wanted to get your opinions on it and your discussion surrounding it because I wonder how far-reaching this may become. It is exclusive to Washington State at this time, but according to this article from crosscut.com, the Washington Supreme Court drug possession ruling upends Washington's criminal justice system. In the Blake decision, the Washington Supreme Court voided most drug possession cases in the state.
Wow.
How?
The implications will be huge. Well, that's a good question, and I'm glad you asked. When Kelly Vamaka first read that the Washington Supreme Court had struck down the law criminalizing drug possession in the state, she was in disbelief. The Blake decision, named for the woman as its center, was not at all on Vamaka's radar. While she was peripherally aware of the case, she would not have guessed that this is where it would lead. In this, she was not alone. Attorneys, advocates, lawmakers, even the lawyer who argued before the 9 justices on Shannon Blake's behalf were all surprised that the court would take the case of a woman with drugs in her jean pockets to such lengths. This came out of the sky one day, said Vamaka, a defense attorney based in Tukwila. Her reaction? Stunned. For advocates of drug policy reform and those in the world of criminal defense, the ruling, quote, was a much-needed nail in the coffin on the war on drugs, unquote.
It's about friggin' time.
But wait, there's more. This is the Ginsu article. That was Ali Homan, the director of legal services at the Washington Defender Association. Meanwhile, many prosecutors, law enforcement officials, and lawmakers are nervous about its implications, and you'll find out why shortly. Regardless, all agree that the Blake decision is and will be viewed as a landmark one, and one whose chain reaction extends well beyond those charged with simple drug possession. Inmates held on multiple charges may need resentencing. Those rearrested for parole violations may have their records cleared.
And that's going to be a lot of people. There are a ton of people who got a violation of probation simply because they had some marijuana on them at one point.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed.
Every year there are more arrests for marijuana than for all violent crimes combined.
Yeah.
So, most of what we pay for the criminal justice system goes to micromanage people's blood chemistry.
I'm glad you mentioned pay, because fees and fines may need refunding. Immigrants facing deportation for drug felonies may be allowed to stay.
Yeehaw!
The list goes on. So I just want to recap that. Inmates held on multiple charges may need resentencing. That's 1. Those rearrested for parole violations may have their records cleared. That's 2. Fees and fines may need refunding. That's 3.
Seems to be the least likely to happen.
Right. Immigrants facing deportation for drug felonies may be allowed to stay, and then the list goes on, they say. So those are the top 5 on their list, apparently.
Well, what they missed there, and maybe I missed them not missing it, was, it sounds like just the obvious thing that a lot of people are just in jail for possession of drugs.
Right.
May well just get out.
For sure.
Have their records cleared.
That seems the most obvious
humans
one,
again.
Yeah. be treated like, regular people. How about because drug possession can be a felony, how about folks having their rights restored?
Yeah, the right to keep and bear arms.
All of that.
And hopefully one step further toward hanging the drug warriors for crimes against humanity. That's still ways to go before that happens.
Yeah, that one.
Well, you can take people's lives from them, but that's not going to make you feel whole.
No, but it may well make people think twice about starting another pointless war with their own people for literally nothing.
Did Nuremberg make them think twice?
I don't know. We haven't had another Holocaust since.
Well, yeah, we haven't had another exactly the same Holocaust, but
I was going to say it seems very presumptive of the human race to refer to it as the Holocaust, because I'm certain there's been more than one.
Well, there definitely has.
How do you define it?
There
what's
was
happening to the Uyghurs right now?
Right.
Yeah, the genocide against the Armenians during World War I. Of course, that strikes close to home because my grandparents' entire families were slaughtered in that.
We still have people saying regularly, over here, I'm just following orders. We still hear that excuse
all the time.
Time and time again.
Heck, I think we heard it just over the last couple of days. This weekend was some activism going on here in New Hampshire, and some videos that I saw. I think I'm just doing my job, right?
It sounds familiar. I forget which one it was, but
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But going on with this article,
can you imagine an assassin saying that? Like, sorry, I'm going to kill you, dude, but I'm just doing my job. You got to understand, right?
I went to work with this guy who was a former sniper in one of the armed forces. I'm not sure which one. I think he was a Marine.
They're always sniping at people.
And we were at a company function, right? It was like maybe a holiday party for the company that I worked for. And he had a couple of cocktails in him. And I was just sitting there. One of the other guys that we worked with asked this guy, hey, what was it like being a sniper in the military? And this guy already, I kind of had a weird vibe about the guy. I felt like he was kind of, teetering on the edge of crazy town. But
well, that kind of life experience doesn't tend to make you saner.
Right. So he goes on to say, he's like, well, it was interesting because I was so far away from the person. I could see them, of course, through the scope, but then I could just pull the trigger and they were dead. And it didn't bother me at all. And I don't know why. And I was like, I just sat there. I didn't say anything, but I was stunned in disbelief. I'm like, here's what happens to a man who's taught how to murder for, the military, right?
You might be a monster. That might be why it didn't affect you.
Self-aware that, yes, I did commit murder and that, yes, I just took out a human being. But for some reason, it didn't bother me.
No, see, it's not murder when they do it because it's an authorized legal taking of life.
Yeah. Well, the reason I think it doesn't bother at least some people who are in that situation is because mankind has always had the need from time to time to engage in combat. And so humans, especially men, have developed the ability to dehumanize someone once they've been classified in their name as the enemy.
Right, and of course now institutions have taken
that. In
that,
their mind as the enemy.
Institutions have taken that and made it almost a scholastic subject.
Oh yeah, they've built a whole mythology around making it easier for people to do that. I remember just after 9/11, some of the things people were saying about Muslims. Oh, they're not like us. All they care about is killing us. And they were saying exactly the same things about the Japanese during World War II.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're driving or passengering in a vehicle, a car, and you're on the roads. The other guy's always the a-hole. It's never you or the car that you're in being the a-hole. It's always the other guy.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, I can see how you can do it, having been made war on without reason myself.
603-283-6160. We'll talk more about the Supreme Court case coming up.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. It's bitcoin.com.
Everyone's always talking about buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. Yeah, well, I'm sorry. That's boring as hell. How about earning some Bitcoin? Getting paid with it. That's the way. It is money after all. If you want to earn Bitcoin at your business, AnyPay is the way to do it. Your customers will love it. Everyone in town will talk about your store being the Bitcoin store, and it's just fun. Get our free app and start earning Bitcoin at your business. AnyPayX.com. Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. It is Free Talk Live, the Monday night edition. The telephone number in studio is 603-283-6160. We'll get to your calls and thoughts momentarily. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
It's Ian.
And nobody.
We've been talking about this article from crosscut.com where there has been what appears to be a landmark ruling in which the Washington Supreme Court has voided most drug possession cases in the state. We've only sort of touched on the first bit of this article, and there's another bit to it that is equally, if not more important, that we will get to, of course. But first, let's go to Dustin, who's calling from Kansas. Dustin, you're on Free Talk Live.
Oopsie, that hard count of Gatorade and that cigarette of crack cocaine, but I'd like to give another hoopty.
Is he talking about crack cocaine on every single phone call now?
No. It's a cigarette addiction.
I do not freebase cocaine.
It's a cigarette addiction. It's a gateway drug of nicotine.
So cocaine is a gateway drug to nicotine? That seems backwards.
Like the marijuana they say in the government.
As usual, I have no idea what this gentleman is trying to say. I'm sure he's a very nice man. However, he cannot communicate to save his life.
I usually just let him babble for a while and then go, what?
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? Huh?
Maybe he's been smoking the crack.
I don't know what he's doing, but he ain't making much sense.
No, it's Hoopty DJ Connor talking Tea Party and FOP that the good honest knows Constitution, Conscience Institution, martial law, because nobody can remember the paragraphs.
I hope you're able to watch yourself.
Wow.
You know Dolly Parton's elephantitis? Trump and Biden has elephantitis of the PP?
Dolly Parton had
Trump and Biden have elephantitis of the PP?
That's enough.
Wow. Dolly Parton had, a couple of redeeming qualities, but I don't know about elephantitis.
Wow.
What?
I think they call that jumping the shark.
I can't even babble incoherently on purpose.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
Right?
I think my impression was that he was, though.
Oh no, I'm pretty sure that's who that guy really is.
Like the first time he called, I'm like, okay, maybe he's trying to do one of these things where he's trying to communicate with some people by using code words,
like aliens. He's trying to talk to the aliens.
Dog whistles.
Yeah, and then the next time he called, I'm like, okay, nope, that's not it.
Yeah, no.
This does not make sense. If Chewbacca is a Wookiee, you must quit.
Chewbacca is a Wookiee.
All right, so how did this...
You must quit.
So,
all the drug prohibition or not drug prohibition, possession charges were overturned or are going to be overturned. What happened?
It appears to be so. In addition to everything we've talked about already, that's the, folks rearrested for parole violations, having their records cleared, fees and fines possibly being refunded, immigrants facing deportation for drug felonies may be allowed to stay. On Thursday, two organizations, the Public Defender Association and the Civil Survival Project, filed a lawsuit demanding repayment of past legal financial obligations on behalf of possibly thousands of people convicted under the now voided law. So, I make a joke all the time about, when it comes tax time and you get they call it the tax refund check. I was like, you just got your change back. You didn't get a refund. This might actually be a refund for some of these people.
They ought to pay for it Caligula style. You know how Caligula paid for things.
Let's lay it on me, bro.
He thought the Senate was spending too much money in Rome, so he built a brothel and threw their wives in it.
Ooh. Cold and caligulating. Wait, no, that doesn't make any sense. I will just continue with the article. We think this is a $100 million issue, said Juliana Rowe, policy director of Washington State Association of Counties. Drug charges, as one attorney put it, are central to the DNA of the country's criminal justice system, adding months to sentences, often leading to downstream consequences. And now that DNA must be extracted in Washington. What's more, even if lawmakers were to pass a new law tomorrow, a pillar of the legal system is that new laws cannot criminalize past behavior, which means there's no going back from the Blake decision. This case was cataclysmic, said Homan. From here onward, we're going to be saying before Blake and after Blake.
Wow.
So at the core of the Blake decision is the question of the state's power to police. When it came to drug possession, Washington was the only state remaining in which prosecutors did not need to prove intent.
Imagine, though, thinking, I mean, cataclysmic, think of that word. Imagine thinking it's a horrible thing if you can't ruin people's lives for nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
this guy really thinks that in order for it to be a decent world, we have to be able to ruin people's lives for no reason.
Yeah, when there was no victim, no person, and no property was harmed. Yeah. These are victimless crimes.
The only criminals involved were the pigs, the legislators,
the prosecution, the court system, the police, right?
They were the criminals.
Indeed.
And they should pay.
So this situation came to a head in 2016 when Spokane police served a search warrant seeking evidence of stolen vehicles. Among those they arrested was Shannon Blake. At the jail, an officer found a bag of methamphetamine in her back pocket. Blake claimed to the officers and later in court that the jeans were her friends and she did not know that there were drugs in the pockets. We've heard that before, right? Unlike most parts of the law, the burden of proof fell not on the prosecution, but on Blake. If the drugs were indeed not Blake's, it was her job to prove it.
That's not how this is supposed to work.
Well, they just mentioned that Washington State was the last one where they had to prove intent.
Uh-huh.
And so that's why...
Wait, where they had to prove intent or didn't have to prove intent?
When it came to drug possession, Washington was the only state remaining in which prosecutors did not need to prove intent.
Meaning all the other states have to prove intent to get a conviction.
Correct.
There was a guy who got acquitted in San Francisco, but the story that got him acquitted, because the jury believed him, was, he had some mushrooms in the bottom of his backpack. Mm-hmm. He said, I traded some weed to some hippies for those, and I forgot all about them. Well, the thing is, he didn't know he was in possession of them, and therefore he wasn't guilty of a crime.
Even though he admitted to trading weed for them?
Yeah.
Huh.
Go figure.
So Blake's lawyer, Richard Leachhitch, I'm probably mispronouncing that, told Crosscut that this gave enormous discretion to police and prosecutors, referring to that Blake had to prove that... it was her job to prove that the drugs were not hers instead of the prosecution's job to prove intent. By way of example, he pointed to a recent case in Seattle in which a woman purchased a crochet kit from a thrift store only to find a kilo of cocaine tucked inside. Never happens to me either, nobody. 603-283-6160. We'll talk more about this Supreme Court case in Washington State.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15% to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. It is Free Talk Live. The telephone number in the studio is 603-283-6160. Grab a crayon and jot these 10 digits down on your fridge or, the wall of your living room or whatever you need to do. 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Yeah, it's Ian.
And the nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
I wanted to tell you that Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. You can go there now and click on Get Started at the top of the page. Once you do that, you will find a cornucopia of information neatly organized by your needs. There is no longer any excuse for ignorance of this important world-changing information. If you are a knowledgeable crypto user, check out news.bitcoin.com, where you can get the latest headlines of all the news relevant to you. Bitcoin.com is your source for buying cryptocurrency, getting a wallet app, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and very easy-to-use website. Please visit Bitcoin.com. All right, we've been talking about this article from Crosscut, where the Supreme Court in Washington State has voided most drug possession cases by way of this Blake decision. And it's named after the person, obviously, whom the decision was made for. And we've been talking about what happened in Spokane in 2016, where
somebody was arrested during a warrant relating to stolen vehicles. They had methamphetamine in the lady's back pocket. She claimed they were her friend's jeans. She had no idea there were drugs in there.
Right. And the article continued to say that if the drugs were indeed not hers, it was her job to prove it. And the article gave an example. When Blake's case made...
Well, and that's because in this one state, prosecutors don't have to prove intent.
Correct. They're the only state or the last state in the union that still has that. Apparently, other states did. I was unaware of that until I read this article. When Blake's case made its way to the Washington Supreme Court, Lechich's primary argument was that Washington's drug possession law actually did imply that prosecutors must prove intent. By this argument, a new precedent could have been set and Blake cleared of her charges, but the law itself would likely have been left to stand. But as his secondary argument, Lechich argued that if intent was not implied, then the whole law ought to be found unconstitutional as a violation of the tenet that people are innocent until proven guilty. So in a narrow 5-4 decision, the justices agreed with Lechich's second argument, surprising the attorney himself. They ultimately concluded that lawmakers had been aware of the hole in the statute for many years, but decided not to change it. The whole law, therefore, was unconstitutional, meaning every case that involved drug possession must be re-examined.
I don't know. Not if they took a guilty plea.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, never take the plea.
So the article continues, the consequences do seem very large just because there are so many convictions for possession of a controlled substance, said Lechich. The consequences of the ruling were immediate, within hours.
Well, hold on. I guess they could argue that even on the cases where people took a guilty plea, maybe they could argue that the defense attorney, usually a public defender, didn't know all the aspects or the ins and outs of how this law was written, and they gave you bad information on which you look, you're going to get found guilty. You better just plead guilty. Well, they didn't know about this intent aspect or the fact that this thing could be unconstitutional, so they didn't inform their client fully on what their odds would have been if they'd gone with not guilty. I don't know. It's a stretch.
Yeah, I was just thinking, don't they always say that ignorance of the law is not an excuse?
They do say that.
I don't know if that has any actual application in a court
ignorance of
situation.
the law on your part is not an excuse, but ignorance of the law on your attorney's part can be ineffective representation by counsel.
Okay, all right. That's what I was looking for, is like some application of where does that turn? I know, like, for somebody who's being prosecuted, right, the accused, right, it's on you, but like, how does it apply to attorneys or the prosecutor or the judges and that type of thing? So the consequences of this ruling were immediate. Within hours, the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs put out a statement that law enforcement should stop taking any actions related to simple drug possession.
Wow.
It's about time.
That's amazing.
Pending cases ought to be dismissed, they said. And warrants for people on simple drug possession should be voided. The Seattle Police Department said its officers would no longer confiscate drugs or arrest anyone for simple possession. It's a very, very significant decision, said Steve Strachan, Executive Director of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs Association.
It's still a little hard for me to get my head around exactly what they overturned here. My understanding so far is the Supreme Court said that the original intent of the legislation could be implied or could be interpreted that it implied that intent must be proven. But overall this time they haven't been proving intent, and so therefore almost all of these cases should be overturned. Did I understand that correctly?
That's how I understand it.
So basically this is only going to affect Washington State, and all other state laws are going to remain intact because they have to prove intent. This is not going to affect anyone outside of Washington State?
Washington State would have to rewrite a new law.
Which they could do.
Right, which they could do. And
they may do.
But it can't affect anybody prior to the law being
ex post facto, I believe is that terminology there?
The software term is backwards compatible. The law the new law that they may introduce or
goes from that day forward.
Goes from that day forward and can't be retroactive.
So that's great news for the people who've been convicted of drug possession in Washington State. But I really wish this had a larger implication beyond Washington State. But if all the other states have their laws quote-unquote written correctly, which, of course, we don't think any of this should exist. I mean, the prohibition is a terrible idea. It needs to end. I mean, if it has to end in the way that it's ending here, then that's fine. Whatever it takes to end it. But again, that presumes that they're not going to just move forward and re-prohibit all these drugs with the swift wick of a pen.
I don't know. To me, it's just a part of the crumbling of the evil empire. You know, they're finally starting to actually apply some of the principles that apply to little things the government doesn't care very much about, like murder, and say those even have to be applied to those evil bastards who smoked some weed.
I've jumped forward a little bit. I'm scanning through this article to see, because
it's a lengthy story.
It is. I was under the impression that the implications were far more than just Washington State. Although there is a paragraph here that says
this wasn't based on some sort of principle of, oh, hey, the right to seek freedom for yourself means you should be able to have a chemical on you or a plant on you if you want to. That wasn't what this was about. It was about some sort of legal issue with not having to prove intent. And I guess that's something you have to prove generally for a criminal conviction. I don't know.
Yeah, normally the preponderance of evidence must be supplied by the prosecution, right?
Well, no, for
preponderance of the
criminal,
evidence is for a civil case.
Yeah, for criminal, it's beyond a reasonable doubt.
Oh, beyond a okay, all right. So it does say it will likely take years to sort out all of the implications of the ruling. How it's applied and interpreted will almost certainly depend on the prosecutor in any given county. In conclusion, it says it is unclear exactly how many people the new ruling will affect. Legal organizations and government agencies are still counting. Homan of the Washington Defender Association said one colleague described the process of untangling the Blake decision as an onion, and we just have to go a layer at a time.
I hope they cry while they're doing it.
I do too. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is on the way.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Free Talk Live, the live call-in radio program where you can take control of the airwaves, talk about anything that's on your mind. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
It's Ian.
And nobody.
Our telephone number is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160 if you'd like to call in and voice your thoughts. We've been talking about this article from crosscut.com where in the state of Washington, the Supreme Court has apparently voided most drug possession cases due to a law on the books where intent was not necessary in prosecuting these. And this article was admittedly a bit confusing to us here in the studio.
Well, hold on. Before you go, I just wanted to add this.
Yes.
Think about how many people who have taken a guilty plea on drug possession didn't know that intent was going to be required, like in the other 49 states,
right,
where apparently intent was a required aspect of getting a guilty conviction. Most people just figure, well, they caught me with the drugs. They were my drugs, so I'll take a guilty plea.
Right.
But they actually had to prove intent. You have to prove that the person knew that there were drugs on them. Well, if you don't say to the cops when they're arresting you, "Oh yeah, those are my pills" or whatever. Well, okay, now they know you've admitted to it. Whereas
and we don't do that because we don't talk to cops.
Right. Whereas if you don't say anything to the police, they then they supposedly have to prove that you knew you had those drugs on you. And how the hell can they prove that?
Right.
So now you've got Washington State overturning, basically through its Supreme Court, drug possession, simple drug possession, which is interesting because Oregon, through the legislative process, or not legislative, through the ballot initiative process, decriminalized simple possession of drugs in the November election. Yep. So now you've got those two next door states where basically possession of drugs is now legal. They're telling the cops to stop investigating and arresting people in Seattle and
For
other
possession.
parts of Washington State for simple possession at this point. That's a huge change.
And I just want to make it clear to the listeners that we're not just talking about marijuana. We're talking about
all
possession
drugs.
of drugs.
All drugs.
Any schedule, doesn't matter.
Which makes it even more liberated in that way than the state of Oregon, because Oregon created a legal process, right? Like they just decriminalized in Oregon, meaning that you can probably still get a ticket. I'm not sure what the exact punishment is, but I suspect it's still a ticketable offense. They may still take the drugs from you in Oregon. In Washington, they're being told to not even investigate.
Right.
They won't mess with you at all.
Right.
So, I mean, this is tremendous news here. And I do have another interpretation of what happened, if you'd like to hear that, Captain.
I would, actually. I did want to just remark, though, as I was scanning through, that there seemed to have been somebody we talked about that, we felt like they would introduce a bill to sort of replace this since it got tossed out, so to speak. And it says Senator State Mark Mullet. Yes, that's his real name. Business in the front, party in the rear. Mark Mullet introduced a bill that reinstates the same language, but adds the word knowingly. So Mullet said that he generally supports finding new ways to get people out of jail and into treatment, but said, I'm drawing the line at legalizing all possession without also scaling up alternatives. So, indeed, somebody had already written by the time this article was published.
Oh yeah,
something to
recriminalize. Yeah, because people aren't
hasn't
ready.
Been passed yet, but
right. People aren't ready to end drug prohibition. Sadly,
I am.
Generally, but
I'm a people and I'm ready.
That's a good point. And I was really happy and surprised that Oregon actually did vote for drug decriminalization. So maybe it is time. Maybe this won't get the feet underneath it that it needs politically to get passed. We can only hope.
It'd be great. Let's hear this.
Actually, you know what? My
perspective.
computer froze, so I don't have it anymore.
Put a hat on it.
But effectively, it was pointing out the legal terminology is called a mens rea, MENSREA. I think it
mens rea. Yeah, that it's the state of mind.
Yeah, the state of knowing, I believe, is what it was defined as. That is not in the statutes of Washington State. That the state Supreme Court had already ruled in prior cases that intent or mens rea was not included in the requirements. Yeah, you've got it here. Captain.
Let's see if I can find
the Supreme Court ruled previously in more than one case that they believed the intent of the legislature was not to include a mens rea in that statute, but they never ruled on whether that made it unconstitutional. And now they have. And because that's what happens in a Supreme Court case. The Supreme Court, you go into the Supreme Court, you make 10 arguments. And the Supreme Court can look at only one of those arguments and say, okay, that's enough to overturn this case. We're overturning the case based on this one thing, and ignore the other 9 that you put in. So this was the first time that the Supreme Court had, after however many decades of drug prohibition, this was the first time they've ever been asked to look at this, and they could have ignored it because remember, there was 2 arguments that the lawyer had made.
Right.
And even the lawyer was surprised.
He was surprised that they didn't look at the first argument. He was surprised that they looked at the second
That's
argument.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because they can choose.
Right.
You as the lawyer, you want to make every argument because you want your case to get, overturned. You want to win. But he didn't know that this was like a Hail Mary kind of argument that he made. Never expected the court to actually consider it or look at it, but they did. And now they've overturned the entire drug possession statute in the state of Washington.
So the text
Hail Mary, full of vodka, blessed art thou amongst cocktails.
the text of the bit from Reason says, in an opinion issued on Thursday, the court concluded that the absence of mens rea, a guilty mind, quote
That's
unquote,
what it means in Latin.
Right. Requirement violated the right to due process.
Right.
As a result of the decision. So
it's unconstitutional.
And Washington police have indeed stopped arresting people for simple possession, while prosecutors are dropping pending cases and seeking orders vacating past convictions under the law.
Now, I think it's unconstitutional, all drug prohibition in all 50 states, because it violates your right to conscience. It violates your right to possession of the things that make you happy, of the things that, if you're in seek of happiness, and this is something that brings you happiness, then, or whether it brings you happiness or not, just because you're seeking it, you should be able to have these things.
Yeah, I mean, people say, oh, well, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness doesn't have any constitutional bearing because it's in the Declaration of Independence rather than in the Constitution. But they forget about the Ninth Amendment, which says that the enumeration in this Constitution of certain rights shall not be held to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So, you know, really, if the society wanted to be moral, they would have two choices. They would have to either start respecting our rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or belatedly surrender to the British and say, yeah, we didn't really have the right to withdraw from the British Empire at all.
Washington State Senator Hobbs thinks it's kind of crazy that people cannot be arrested and locked in a cage for possessing an arbitrarily prescribed intoxicant. To the contrary,
it's kind of amazing that people can be arrested for that.
That's
to me
our position on it. Yes, mine anyway. You and I agree.
It's incomprehensible to me.
Inconceivable.
Yeah, it's like I would really love it if somebody would form a gang and start finding some random thing that legislators do, like drink alcohol, and just go drag them out of their homes, throw them in prison.
Yeah, or wear a specific tie or something.
Yeah, wear a tie I don't like. Wear a purple hat.
Speaking of ties, and this is just a random segue, I'm of the opinion that the tie is, you know, I don't wear a tie like ever. I'll go to a funeral, I won't wear a tie. If I ever got to go to court, not wearing a tie. Right?
I have to re-look it up every time. I only do it like once a year for some fancy dress event or whatever, and I always have to re-look up how to do it because I don't remember.
I know how to do it, but I look at ties as a symbol of the establishment.
Yeah.
In my opinion, this is, you know, if you're wearing a tie, you are basically saying, I participate in the craziness that is the establishment.
You're also giving the people a handle to choke you to death with.
Yeah, and I don't understand. I mean, it seems just like an elitist thing. It's like golf, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like golf for the same reason. Golf seems very elitist to me. Wearing a tie seems very elitist to me. I'm part of the club. Look at me in my fancy tie. Like, I'm sorry, no. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number here in the studio if you'd like to join us. Hour number 2 of Free Talk Live is on the way.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
More questioning. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The judge in the criminal case against the former Minneapolis police officer charged in the death of George Floyd last year, recalling jurors over a civil settlement in Floyd's death.
Judge Peter Cahill calling it unfortunate and granting the defense's motion to call back jurors seated in the case over what Derek Chauvin's lawyer Eric Nelson also calls grave concerns over the city's very public $27 million settlement with the family of George Floyd.
That has very suspicious timing, to say the least, and has an incredible propensity to taint a jury pool.
The judge denying a motion to move the trial, though says a delay now may be warranted for opening statements, which were set for March 29th. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
Capitol Police says to move barriers around the Capitol. House Sergeant-at-Arms Timothy Blodgett, in a memo to members of Congress, says there's no credible threat that warrants the temporary security fencing that's now in place. Several Republican lawmakers traveled to the Texas-Mexico border to observe what's been described as a surge of migrants, many of them children. They're in a Customs and Border Patrol facility.
For all these children, they're unaccompanied, that's sitting in there. There's 120 border agents that are now inside that unit that are not on the border protecting us when a surge is coming.
House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says the administration has begun to address the issue and to make sure the children are being tested for COVID-19.
There's now an embedding at the president's ask of HHS and ORR staff with CBP, which will allow government to more quickly ID, vet, confirm sponsors and family members.
The federal government plans to house up to 3,000 migrant teenagers at a convention center in downtown Dallas. America is listening to Fox News.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but here you go. You deserve to feel better than you do today. And you can with Headspace. They make meditation simple. Headspace is the one of the only meditation apps advancing the field of mindfulness and meditation through clinically validated research and can reduce stress, improve sleep, boost focus, and increase your overall sense of well-being. Go to headspace.com/Fox for a free 1-month trial. This is the best deal offered right now. Headspace.com/Fox.
A year after becoming the epicenter of the pandemic in the West, much of Italy is again under lockdown.
The major cities of Milan and the capital Rome are among those now considered red zones, where all non-essential movement is banned until at least through Easter. Schools are going remote again, and many aspects of life are grinding to a halt. For many, it's hard to believe that we are back to where we were. Only about 3% of Italians have been vaccinated so far. The new Prime Minister, Mario Draghi, has vowed to ramp up vaccinations here and soon. This, as a handful of European countries have suspended use of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine over fears it may cause blood clots. Amy Kellogg, Fox News.
Meanwhile, the chief scientist of the World Health Organization is recommending that countries continue to use the AstraZeneca vaccine for now, despite concerns about blood clots in some people who got that version of the vaccine. Close monitoring of that vaccine continues. A social media company taking steps to stop misinformation about COVID vaccines.
There's a lot of anti-coronavirus vaccination misinformation out there, particularly on social networking sites, and Facebook is determined to do something about it. In a Monday blog post, CEO Mark Zuckerberg said Facebook will now add credible informational labels to posts about vaccines, and he says that info will be straight from the World Health Organization. Both Facebook and Instagram have taken heat for allowing anti-vax information to spread across their platforms and have been...
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party.
According to a new report released this week by the Pew Research Center, a rising number of weak, emasculated men are working as stay-at-home dads, with a steadily increasing number of feeble, pathetic fayboys choosing to spend their days cooking, cleaning, and performing other submissive duties.
Well, our findings indicate that more and more pussified half-men are not going to work, and instead are embarrassing themselves by purchasing groceries, packing children's lunches, and denying all aspects of their masculinity on a daily basis.
The Onion spoke to one of these effete, pathetic excuses for men to get his response on the new report.
I love being able to stay home with Angela. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
What a f***ing pussy. For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live. You are in the right place for the live call-in talk radio program that you can take control of. Talk about anything that's on your mind. The telephone number here is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. Those are the magic 10 digits to get you on the air. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Yeah, it's Ian.
And nobody.
Gonna switch gears here going into hour number 2 because, well, this came across my feeds and some other hosts as well. And, you know, Ian, you and I have talked about, you know, if two hosts come up with the same thing, why?
It must be talked about.
It must be talked about. This from the freethoughtproject.com. U.S. COVID relief, and I'm going to clarify here, this headline is talking about all three of the COVID relief things that have been passed so far combined. U.S. COVID relief was enough to give every taxpayer $41,870, but we got peanuts instead.
And considering that they stole our lives for a year, you know, that would be a far more reasonable compensation rather than, you know, giving us, what, $600 and then handing out trillions to corporations who are not, last I heard, even susceptible to COVID.
Oh, how about sending money overseas to foreign countries for reasons?
Yeah. Well, you know, the foreign aid, the art of redistributing money from poor people in rich countries to rich people in poor countries.
Indeed. So President Biden just signed his sweeping $1.9 trillion spending package into law. Once this bill hits the books, total taxpayer expenditure on COVID relief will hit $6 trillion, again with a T, trillion, which roughly estimated comes out to $41,870 in spending per federal taxpayer.
So, and there's another way to look at it. Rather than saying this is what you could have gotten, say this is what you're on the hook for.
Correct.
On average, plus interest.
For
the privilege of being robbed of your right to work for a year.
Right. So if they took, say, $41,870 from every taxpayer and turned around and gave you, what, $1,200 and then $600 and now $1,400, so that's
I only got $600.
$3,200, right, at max, right, then that seems like a raw deal.
Yeah. It seems like enough of a raw deal that we should be hanging these people in the streets.
The article actually asks the question separately. Did you see anywhere near that much in benefit? I know I didn't.
God, no.
The sheer...
All I saw is 70 pounds of weight gains from sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah, I got to say, I don't think that hanging people in the streets is going to help. I think that maybe mass non-cooperation would get you where you want to go.
Well, the thing is,
without blood on your hands.
When you don't cooperate, that's when they come and do violence to you. And the nice thing about killing them first is they can't do it to you then.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work out the way you're hoping for.
Yeah, I'm not a violent man by nature, except for in the areas of self-defense. Although it could be argued,
well, it is self-defense.
Exactly.
I mean, we're being robbed blind.
Well, they've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, and they're not going to stop until we make them stop, until they have no choice.
Nobody seems to be defending us, and by that I mean nobody is, speaking out.
It's true.
Yeah. I mean, it's an easy thing to say, but, to actually go out and do it would mean that you're probably going to get killed, which is, I suspect, why you don't do it, nobody, and you just talk about it.
Well, we shall see. Maybe I'm wait. See, the thing is, God favors large armies. So
well, if you
it's
have
not the sort of thing you want to go out and do by yourself.
I see. Well, if you have enough people, then you can do a lot more than just use them for violence. You can do more creative things than that.
You could get them all to move to one certain area and secede from the violent gang of criminals that are doing the badness to everybody.
Just be careful that you don't become what you hate by using their tools.
Well, I still have never even considered becoming an aggressor. I just consider self-defense from time to time.
Indeed. The sheer immensity of this spending is hard to grasp. For context, $6 trillion is more than 1/4 of what the U.S. economy produces in an entire year, according to Fox Business. The COVID spending blowout is at least 8 times bigger than the inflation-adjusted price tag of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal.
Wow, then the inflation-adjusted price tag of the New Deal.
8 times bigger.
Man. Now, does this include the $1.9 trillion? It does, right?
Does,
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So all 3 of the COVID relief, we'll call them bills.
Yeah, and there's going to be another one before the end of the year.
Oh, of course there is. They're having too much fun.
Oh, yeah, they're not slowing this down.
Giving money to all their friends and, in the form of, well, as we said, foreign aid. And then it shuffles, of course, back to them over here by way of doing that.
The payoffs and the ripoffs and the things nobody saw.
Moreover, the COVID spending bills have all lost huge sums of money to unrelated carve-outs, politician pet projects, corporate bailouts, fraud, waste, and worse. In the latest $1.9 trillion package, more than 90% of the spending is not directly related to containing COVID-19. Only 1% of the money, about $15 to $20 billion, is spent on vaccines. Meanwhile, hundreds of...
Not that I'd want a vaccine anyway.
Right. But I mean,
it's
they're not
just
even
pork. It's just political.
They're not
projects.
even trying to hide it.
No.
At this
Why
point,
should they? Why should they? What's going to change?
Yeah, nothing apparently, unless an army of nobodies rises up.
Not until people stop fearing the government and they make the government fear the people.
Doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon.
Well, it may.
Nope.
Eventually.
Not enough people together.
Get pissed.
There's not enough people together who actually care about freedom.
I'm as mad as hell.
Yeah, they're not even willing to get up and move somewhere. Nobody. You think they're going to actually stand up and do violence? Not going to happen.
Need an army of nobodies. Meanwhile, hundreds of billions of dollars go to bailing out poorly managed state government budget holes that predate the pandemic, and $86 billion. $86 billion rescues failing pension plans. Meanwhile, billions more go to Obamacare expansion and subsidizing public schools long after the pandemic. And that
public
is just,
schools that aren't even bothering to open, but I'll bet you every one of those teachers is getting their full salary.
And that's just scratching the surface. The math does not add up. The numbers here are really quite damning. For the same $6 trillion. Damn. Yeah. Damn. Any Trailer Park Boys? Damn.
Great show.
Damn.
Green eggs and ham. Right.
Whiskey and...
For the same $6 trillion in expenditure, the government could have given every federal taxpayer a $41,870 check. Or, to think about it a bit differently, it could have written every American roughly an $18,181 check.
Right, because there are more Americans than there are taxpayers.
Correct.
That's why the number for taxpayers is much higher.
Yes. Let's compare this to what most Americans actually received. Only someone who fully collected expanded unemployment benefits throughout the, quote, pandemic, unquote, and received all $3,200 in total of the stimulus payments likely received more than $18,181 in direct benefit from this spending package. And that's a relatively small fraction of the public.
I hope they put it in cryptocurrency.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Because of the way government used outdated, arbitrary income data to determine eligibility, many more taxpayers saw nothing or little in exchange for their $41,870 share of the cost. Perhaps just the initial $1,200 stimulus or none at all. More Free Talk Live is coming up. 603-283-6160.
Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by T.J. Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com. Hey developers, do you want to add Bitcoin to your apps, website? Want to make something creative? AnyPay is the way. We made a super simple API just for you at anypay.dev. You don't need any special knowledge of Bitcoin. Plug it into your app or website and it just works. Get paid on the transactions your users make. Whether you're brand new to web development or have decades of experience, you can add Bitcoin to anything with anypay.dev.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Shortly after members of the New York Police Department found a super sharp Buck brand pocket knife earlier this morning, Lieutenant Joseph Mattioli spoke to Onion reporters at the scene of the discovery to update the public on this potentially deadly blade.
At 8:40 a.m., police discovered what seems to be a pretty badass buck knife. Investigators believe it to be basically the deadliest knife ever.
Mattioli confirmed that the pretty cool wood-handled knife has a clean edge and added that the blade must be, quote, at least like 8 inches long.
At this time, we'd like everyone to be aware that there's probably a man out there with an eye patch and scars all over his face that has access to these knives, or maybe even a samurai sword. We urge people to be careful when approaching him because he may flip out and chop both your arms off before you even realize it.
Following the announcement, Mattioli asked people to come forward if they had any information about the owner of the knife or if they just wanted to hold it for a couple of seconds. For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
You know that at some point in your life, an emergency is going to happen. You just don't know when. You could call the government and maybe they'll help, or they might shoot your dog. Why call potentially psychopathic strangers when you could ask your friends, family, or neighbors for help? Cell 411 makes decentralized emergency response possible, and it's free. Visit getcell411.com or download Cell 411 from your favorite app store. Getcell411.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to Free Talk Live. The telephone number here in studio is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
It's Ian.
And I'm mad as hell.
And you're not going to take it anymore?
I'm not going to take it anymore.
Were you taking it in the first place?
Not really.
Okay. So you're going to continue not taking it?
I'm going to continue not taking it.
Excellent. We like it. We've been talking about this bit from the Free Thought Project that says the total for the COVID relief bills that have been passed was enough to give every taxpayer $41,870.
Or to put another way, that's what you owe. That's what your children owe.
Yeah. So let's compare this to what most Americans actually received. $3,200 would be the stimulus payments if you got all three of them, the 12, the 6, and the 14. You could have gotten a little more than that if to the tune of over $18,000 if you had also received the expanded unemployment benefits.
Which they're bringing back, by the way.
Yeah, of course, and going to continue. And, sort of as a segue, Melanie brought it up last night, not on air, but in between segments, that I've felt this for a while, too. I felt like these stimulus checks and this expanded unemployment stuff was a potential on-ramp to UBI, or Universal Basic Income, right? That's to get everybody on the government dole, regardless of whether they're working or not.
Well, there's a lot of people that are collecting unemployment who I'm sure are really liking not having to work and getting hundreds of dollars a week.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty sweet, right?
Yeah, for the moment.
Well, that's just it. They're getting them used to getting those payments. So, yeah, and UBI, they're going to clamor for that. Like, whoa, I can keep the gravy train going?
Right.
Well, that's the least harmful thing they can do with the money when you think about it. Because anything else they do with the money is going to involve robbing us and giving it to their friends. Well, I would rather the gig give it back to us than give it to their friends,
which they'll never do. So,
yeah,
I thought you were saying that's what they were preparing to do.
Oh, they'll never give you anything in significance, or anything of significance.
UBI is exactly that: is giving it to the people instead of giving it to the leeches.
But it's insignificant, whatever it is that they would give to the people. You're right that it's better than giving it to the corporations. But remember, all of these giveaways give billions upon hundreds of billions to the corporations at the same time. So the corporations always end up on top.
Well, burn down some courthouses. Make that stop. That's what guillotines are for.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right that there's no way that anything is going to change if we don't make them afraid.
They don't even need courthouses anymore. People will just show up for online court.
Yeah, and
maybe you will.
Oh, yeah? You're not going to? They'll put a warrant out for your arrest, and they'll come find you.
I've probably got a warrant out for my arrest. I still haven't paid for the attorney for being a felon in possession of a farm tool.
Let's not mention Warrant. They were a really crappy band. Really hated those guys. At any rate, this article also mentions that in all of these, we'll call them relief packages that were passed, billions in checks were sent to dead people. So whatever it is, their criteria they were using to figure out who to give, this money to and not to give it to, was so tightly, put together and so well researched.
Basically, it's anybody who paid taxes, right, in the last X number of years, the last year or two or whatever.
They sent billions to people who are dead.
Sure. It's the government. I mean, a billion here, a billion there.
Pretty soon you're talking about real money.
Who's counting?
So for almost all Americans, the actual benefits of the multiple pieces of lengthy stimulus legislation come in far, far lower than the figure they would have received if the entire pile of money was just evenly split up and sent out. How can that possibly be considered a success? In fact, it's actually a net negative. The trade-offs are inescapable. Too often, the stimulus conversation is simply framed around whether we should give money to a certain group of people or a program, rather than also including the trade-offs and costs. The question isn't just, should we send people $1,400 stimulus checks? It is instead, should we send people $1,400 stimulus checks at the cost of taking the equivalent amount, or more if you factor in waste, from other people? It's not just whether we should send $350 billion to state and local governments, but should we do so at the cost of taking an average of $2,442 per federal taxpayer. The government,
these are good questions.
The government doesn't have anything. It doesn't provide anything the government has that it gives to you. It first must take
That's correct.
from somebody else.
And that's what happens when they print the money, too. Even though they're not taking it directly, they're still taking the value of the money that you might have in a savings account.
Right. And shouldering that debt presumptively on unborn children should the system continue to go on. The government is not
Which is
Santa
a really
Claus.
good reason to prevent that from happening.
Agreed. The government is not Santa Claus. Money doesn't grow on trees. Or, as the great economist Ludwig von Mises put it, the government does not have the powers of the mythical Santa. The truth is, the government cannot give it if it doesn't take from somebody, Mises wrote. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that was coming up. They cannot spend except by taking out of the pockets of some people for the benefit of others. The government cannot create wealth out of thin air. It can only give anyone anything via three ways. 1, directly increasing taxes, which discourages economic growth and directly takes money away from people.
Wasn't there headlines recently about Biden increasing taxes again?
Oh, I'm sure.
I think there's something going on with that.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, no matter who gets in that office, taxes are going to increase. I have yet to see...
sometimes the Republicans
in office.
Sometimes the Republicans will decrease "quote unquote" taxes, but they won't decrease spending.
Right.
So they play a little shell game. Whereas the Democrats, they will actually be honest and say they want more taxes, and apparently that's what's happening. Biden eyes first major tax hike since 1993 in next economic plan.
Wow. So the second method is by running up debt, which we just talked about.
Yep.
And the third is printing money, which is a stealth tax via public inflation.
Which is what they've been doing with the trillions of dollars that they've been giving out, because there's no other way for them to get that kind of money except for to just print it out.
Which is why in like 1982, you could buy a small Mazda pickup truck for $5,795.
And now it's $50,000 for
it's probably like 30 or something for a base model. So
right.
Yeah. Stealth inflation, of course, and inflation in general is a result of the banking system, fractional reserve banking. If you don't know what fractional reserve banking is, you should go look that up on the internet. There's a bunch of great videos out there.
And remember that Henry Ford said that if the people knew how the banking system operated, we would have a revolution by morning.
That is for certain. And it's a crime that more people don't know. More Free Talk Live is on the way.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Wagner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interfaith, diverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs. As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love, and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
The Shire Free Church does not define a specific path beyond those parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way,
love as your guide,
and liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com.
AnyPay believes that Bitcoin is meant to improve your life, make it easier to do business, connect you with more people in the world at under a penny every time. That's kind of why we laugh at BTC. It used to be free the market, free the world. Now it's just hodl and have fun staying poor. That's not what the world needs. We need honest money that works for everyone. If you care, join us at anypayx.com.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit shiresociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
603-283-6160. I wish I could turn that into a song somehow, give it a jingle, you know.
You could. It'd be probably not the best song in the world, though.
It's an interesting number, 603-283-6160. I wonder if it spells anything. I should put that into the anagram
I think I
thing.
did, and it wasn't anything worth talking about.
Well, that's the number you need if you want to, inscribe it in a stone tablet or...
Somebody sent an email complaining that the number is hard to find. It's like, did you try looking at the top of our website?
Right. Yeah,
it's right there. How about on any video feed that we have? We also say it multiple times throughout the show. Like if you want to call into this show and you just can't figure out what the number is, you're not trying at all, nor are you paying any attention.
You know who can't call into the show?
Nope. Who?
Unaccompanied migrant children in overflow facilities.
If they had our landline, they might be able to call collect.
That's true. Okay.
I don't know if you get access to phone lines in overflow facilities.
I don't
however.
either, but that's the new phrase. So I talk about this frequently, where when the government wants to cover up something that they're doing, they give it a usual amount of words or unusual phrases. They make up new stuff. I have a few of my favorites, but this one, unaccompanied migrant children in overflow facilities. What does that mean? What do you suppose that means?
Kids in cages.
Kids in cages! Yeah, you remember before the election, and it was all the rage to criticize Trump for the kids in cages?
Indeed. Now it's not a thing at all. The news
Well, you
media.
don't think these hypocrites actually cared about the kids, do you?
No. The kids were a tool.
The kids are
go
still
after
in
Trump.
cages, by the way. They're just renaming the cages now. They're called unaccompanied migrant children in overflow facilities.
Biden-approved facilities.
Yes, indeed. What's one of my favorite ones of these?
Great. Now we've got a child molester making these decisions.
That'll come out great.
Well, yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
My favorite one of these euphemisms government makes up is, one of my favorites anyway, is kinetic military action. Also known as bombing.
Ah, okay.
Yes. We have engaged in kinetic military action. No. You've been bombing people again, haven't you? So, yeah, kids in cages, again. They're in the news. This from digitaljournal.com. The U.S. orders emergency agency to help with child migrant surge. This is directly related to and about the unaccompanied migrant children.
It's amazing
in
that
overflow facility.
Anybody still wants to actually come into this country, but the mythology about America is very strong in other parts of the world, and I guess their governments really are that much worse.
They must be. I mean, although some people cling to a belief, right? Maybe they just believe that it's better here without doing any actual
That's what I'm saying.
research.
There's a lot of mythology.
Have you looked at standards of living in, say, Mexico or Venezuela or Puerto Rico? Or not Puerto Rico.
I have looked
anywhere.
I have looked in Mexico. In fact, before I came here, it was on my list of potential places to go. But I came here instead because, I felt that this was the right place to be.
Good move. Glad to have you.
Me too. I also didn't want to regret not coming here, right? Because this was the first place on my list.
Yeah, you can always go somewhere else.
And I thought it would be wise to cultivate multiple options.
Sure.
And so I looked into some different stuff, and this was still number one when all was said and done. After
what was number two?
Mexico.
Mexico. Okay.
Yeah. Mexico was.
I knew it was on the list. I wasn't sure if it was number two.
It was number two.
Okay.
I looked at Chile. I looked at Vietnam. Because in places like Chile and Vietnam, you can just show up, and if you have a little bit of money, I'm talking $3,000-$5,000, something like that, and you want to open a bar, you just buy some booze and put a sign out and go, open. I'm a bar. I'm
That's
open.
Sweet.
You don't have to fill out any paperwork, get any insurance. You know what I mean? You can work on building your business while you're open.
I love it.
Yeah. So. At any rate, this article from digitaljournal.com, the Biden administration ordered the government's disaster emergency agency Saturday, that's FEMA for you folks not paying attention, to help with a surge in migrant children crossing the southern border that has overwhelmed processing facilities, also known as cages. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, hell of a name, called upon the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to support an effort to temporarily house thousands of children who crossed the U.S.-Mexico border alone amid criticisms that authorities were holding them for long periods in overcrowded facilities. The Health and Human Services, HHS, is currently holding about 8,800 migrant children.
Wow.
And the U.S. Customs and Border Protection has hundreds more in their charge, with more arriving every day. In February alone, CBP detained 9,457 unaccompanied migrant children at the southern border. Facilities are overcrowded, and authorities are doubly challenged by restrictions related to COVID-19.
Well, it's okay now. The kids are no longer being held by the Customs and Border Patrol. They're in the hands of FEMA. It's okay. Rest easy.
These are the people that Alex Jones warned you about.
The ones with the plastic coffins.
Remember after Hurricane Katrina, where the FEMA agency brought in a bunch of like trailers or something like that, and they had like formaldehyde all throughout them, and they were essentially poisoning the people that were staying in them. Remember that story?
I do. Surprise!
These are the same people now taking care of thousands of children.
And they had huge fields full of trailers that never even got delivered. They're probably still sitting there.
Some folks tried to claim and resell them on Craigslist.
Oh, my God.
And, of course, were not very successful in doing so because of the aforementioned formaldehyde and poison issues. At any rate, the Department of Homeland Security said in a statement that FEMA would be part of a 90-day effort to ensure the children are safely sheltered and transferred to people who will take care of them, usually relatives already living in the United States. Now, I'm personally pretty not confident that the government can do anything in a 90-day window.
No doubt. Let alone actually get kids to people that care about them. I don't believe it. Look at the foster care system. I mean, what a nightmare for some of these kids.
How many of these kids are going to end up in, being human trafficked?
Well, most of the kids who do fall victim to human trafficking come out of the foster care system.
So a system in which the government is directly involved, responsible, and, takes care of.
Yep.
Wouldn't be a far stretch to imagine a bunch of them coming out of a large group of them contained and being tossed around by several alphabet agencies also controlled by the government.
Wouldn't be hard to imagine him being tossed around by Biden and a few of his friends.
That's what I'm saying. How many of these are ended up on Epstein Island? By the way, Epstein didn't kill himself, in case you were wondering.
No, he didn't.
The federal government is responding to the arrival of record numbers of individuals, including unaccompanied children, at the southwest border, the department said. Since April 2020, the number of encounters at the border has been rising due to ongoing violence, natural disasters, food insecurity, and poverty in the Northern Triangle countries of Central America. The nearly 2-month-old government of President Joe Biden faces growing pressure from migrants, apparently encouraged to try to enter the United States by his rejection of previous President Donald Trump's zero-tolerance policy toward undocumented immigrants.
That, as we discovered recently, is just propaganda.
Yeah.
That is not the case. They just sort of retooled the language that they use to give the orders to crack down on immigrants, and really nothing of any significance has changed.
While migrant adults
Same thing Trump did.
And families continue to be sent back to Mexico when they are caught, unaccompanied children are being processed and get help resettling with U.S. relatives. Unaccompanied migrant children in overflow facilities. Kids in cages. More Free Talk Live is on the way.
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15% to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
Free speech is protected on the internet, right? Not always. Government agencies try to limit free speech and commerce on the net. Luckily, when they do, the Institute for Justice is there to defend your First Amendment right to free speech. IJ helped set the first federal precedent for internet free speech in 1999, and ever since has worked to prevent unconstitutional roadblocks in cyberspace. Visit our website today at ij.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
I'm voicing the bass line to the music.
Mouth bass.
Boom, boom. I feel like Freddie Boom Boom Jackson from Welcome Back, Kotter.
Wow. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Boom, 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 boom. Oh, Freddie, do you play the bass? No, I just like doing this. Boom, 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 boom. Anyway, it is Free Talk Live, the live radio call-in program that's also streaming online and on some satellite stations, where you can call in and take control of the airwaves. The telephone number here is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. I do slow that down a bit. We've had a couple of people call in and say, I think maybe it was the same person twice or something, but a couple of people said, sometimes when you guys say the number, you say it so fast, I can't get it. We were talking about earlier, but, it's not hard to get the phone number for this show. If you want to call in.
Well, apparently I was wrong. The person who was saying they couldn't find the number on the website, apparently it doesn't show to the mobile users, which now most people are using phones to look at the web,
right.
So you don't get to see everything that's on the website, which is frustrating.
I did see somewhere recently where the old toll-free number was still, I can't remember where.
If you see it again, let me know.
Yeah, I meant to write it. It could be like, oh, hey, it's still there. I meant to tell you about it, but I didn't because,
Yeah, and changing the website is a huge pain in the butt because it's Drupal, which is a big pain.
Right.
So
I
don't know when or if I'll be able to fix that.
Well, in the studio,
PHP is an abomination, and Drupal is a horror built on top of it.
Yeah.
Is that like RuPaul with a D in front of it?
Very much like that, yes.
Okay, just checking. In the studio tonight, it is myself, the captain.
It's Ian.
It's RuPaul if he'd gotten a D in computer science.
Drupal.
And this is nobody.
Come on, you're somebody, nobody. How can nobody not be somebody? You have to be somebody, nobody.
I don't have any words.
He's speechless.
I am.
Have I left nobody speechless?
I guess so.
It doesn't happen very often. The last time it happened, somebody said, "You've just got an answer for everything, don't you?" And I said, "I have no idea how to respond to that."
Which in and of itself was a response.
It's true. Well, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
Oh, very nice. Rush. One of the greatest three pieces in rock history.
What a rush.
Before we go on with the show, I need to tell you about AnyPayX.com. Everybody's always talking about buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, that's boring as hell. How about earning some Bitcoin, getting paid with it? That's the way. It is money after all. If you want to earn Bitcoin at your business or for your, financial activities, AnyPayX.com is the way to do it. Your customers will love it. Everyone in town will talk about your store or your business being the Bitcoin store or the Bitcoin business. And it is just a ton of fun. Go get the free app and start earning Bitcoin at your business. Visit AnyPayX.com. That's AnyPayX.com.
I love AnyPay. It works great.
Yeah, I do too. Those guys are doing good work. We're going to shift gears a little bit because, well, we continue to highlight the insanity of the institution more commonly referred to as government. And this from Reason.com. 2 California cops have been charged with extorting cash and marijuana from motorists.
But without police, who would jack your weed?
Now, this happening in California in the last 5 years? This is a recent story?
This article is from 3/15/2021.
I mean, this is something you would expect to see in the news in 1998, maybe, when, weed was still mostly illegal, with the exception of medical that had just started in California. But
you got to remember that these guys are on a power trip.
They've got enough laws in California that you can't turn around without breaking one. They can always find something to blackmail you for.
I mean, there's no doubt the cops are going to do what cops are going to do, in this case, extort and use violence and threats against people. But, I mean, are the cops that hard up for some weed? They can, everywhere you turn in California, you can find weed legally
but
now.
If it's
they don't
free,
pay for anything.
That's true.
If it's free,
they expect everything handed to them for free, from their coffee to their donuts to their weed to they gotta rape the occasional motorist.
It is really interesting to note that people give cops free stuff when in fact they're already living off the public's money.
Yeah, well, people love the police. I mean, only in 2020...
Maybe people do, but I'm nobody.
Only in 2020 was the first time we ever really saw any significant public pushback against the police, with the murder of George Floyd and the subsequent protests that erupted from that. But overall, I mean, the police still, they have a very large approval rating with a lot of the population, because people believe the mythology that the police are this sort of protection from insanity and, crazed maniacs running around.
Have you noticed, though, that since they burned down that police station, there haven't been a whole lot of, police shootings for no reason?
I haven't noticed
actually
that.
Kind of receded into the background.
There was one story that I had in show prep that I don't think we talked about, but it was another one of these where the cops decided to kneel on a guy's neck and killed him. I don't think we covered that here on Free Talk Live, but I had it in show prep.
We've covered that like 10,000 times on Free Talk Live.
Well, this specific person, as opposed to the many people before him. But
I don't know nobody. I think it would be interesting to look at.
You don't know me?
I know nobody.
I don't know.
Let me introduce you, Ian. Nobody.
I don't know,
Ian?
Nobody. I don't think that there have been, the numbers have come out yet as far as 2020. I mean, maybe you feel like the number of bad police shooting innocent people has gone down. I don't know if I buy that. I think that it's still going on. And
I'm sure it is.
Maybe it's just not getting the coverage.
Yeah, I mean, the coverage, the media was sort of hot and heavy about that coverage during the summertime, and I think they've sort of drifted away from it now.
Well, Trump's not in office anymore.
Good point.
So this is from Reason.com. 2 California cops charged with extorting cash and marijuana from motorists. Now, if they're charged with doing both of these things simultaneously, not separately, not, they extorted some cash from this guy and they extorted some marijuana from this guy. No, instead, they extorted some cash and marijuana at the same time. That means they got paid to take somebody else's weed.
I want to get further into it, but just, on what we were just talking about here, I just searched the internet for police shoot man and clicked on news. There's plenty of stories about the police shooting people here. Now, whether they're outrageous, where they rank on the scale of outrageous police shootings versus kind of justified, obviously I don't know, but there's a ton of them.
What's that website where it's the non-government website where they keep track of how many people have died by police?
I don't know.
Killed by police.
Killed by police, or like The Counted, I think is another one.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look them up here in a bit. But yeah, after news investigations uncovered numerous allegations that cops in a small California town were robbing motorists. Now, hang on, I got to stop here because in the libertarian, anarchist, voluntarists circles, the communities that we find ourselves in, there is a term for policemen. We call them road pirates.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because why they sit in their cars lurking behind, signs, other obstructions, setting up speed traps or otherwise trying to entrap people into some sort of bureaucratic crime in order to extract money from you. Well, they've taken it to another level now. If only they had hooks for arms and an eye patch to identify them.
That could be arranged, just got to put the work into remodeling them.
So a small California town, some allegations that cops were robbing motorists of cash and weed. 2 former officers are now facing federal charges. Federal prosecutors have charged Rohnert Park, California, or were charged in Rohnert Park, California with extorting, blah, blah, blah. In an unsealed criminal complaint filed on March 9th, federal prosecutors for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of California say 2 former drug interdiction officers, blah, 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 Brendan J.C., that's what I was looking for, the names, Brendan J.C. Tatum and Joseph Huffaker. That's Brendan J.C. Tatum and Joseph Huffaker conspired to extort at least $3,700 in cash and 60 pounds of marijuana with a value of at least $85,000.
Like they're not living well enough off the money the government steals from you.
Protecting and serving. That's right.
They'll protect you and serve you to death.
More Free Talk Live on the way.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Don't delay. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The Biden administration's top COVID-19 expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, says Americans have 3 options for a vaccine against COVID-19 and should take what's offered.
There are 3 vaccines that are highly efficacious. If you go into a place and you have a certain vaccine available to you, take that vaccine rather than waiting for another vaccine.
President Biden has said the U.S. will soon reach 100 million vaccinations. The state of Mississippi now opening up vaccinations for all eligible residents tomorrow.
Governor Reeves made the announcement on his social media platforms. He says new appointments will be open to all Mississippians. The move comes weeks after the state lowered the minimum age to get the shots from 65 years old to 50. Governor Reeves said there will be thousands of appointments available over the next 3 weeks. The vaccines will be available at state drive-through sites, clinics, health centers, and pharmacies. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
The yeas are 51. The nays are 40. The nomination is confirmed.
The Senate voting to confirm New Mexico Representative Deb Haaland to lead the Department of the Interior, making her the first Native American to lead the department, which has an influence over the nation's tribes for nearly 2 centuries. A 71-year-old man has been charged with 3 counts of vehicular manslaughter, 5 counts of causing great bodily harm, and felony DUI. San Diego police say Craig Voss plowed through a homeless encampment this morning as he was heading through a tunnel underneath a community college campus. Police say additional charges against Voss may be coming. Denver's airport has reopened after a powerful late winter snowstorm dumped over 3 feet of heavy, wet snow on parts of Colorado and Wyoming. The storm, the 4th biggest in Denver's history. America is listening to Fox News. The Vatican with a ruling for priests on same-sex marriage.
In a decree approved by Pope Francis, the Vatican says Catholic priests cannot bless same-sex unions because God, quote, cannot bless sin. The Vatican's Office for Doctrine was responding to a question about offering blessings as a way of welcoming gay Catholics, an alternative given same-sex marriage is not permitted by the Church. But the Vatican says while gay people should be welcomed and blessed, the Church cannot do the same for their unions. In London, Simon Owen, Fox News.
A coalition of cities, counties, and civil rights groups is attempting to block the state of Ohio from trying to force the Census Bureau into releasing data used for drawing congressional and legislative districts earlier than planned. Ohio was the first state that challenged the Census Bureau's decision to release the data at the end of September instead of the end of this month. The group sued the Trump administration last year over a concern that a shortened head count would cause minority communities to be undercounted. After a year off due to the pandemic, March Madness is back.
Selections for the NCAA brackets were announced Sunday. The number 1 ranked team in the country, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, the number 1 overall seed, trying to become the first school since Indiana in 1976 to complete an undefeated season and win the tournament. Other top seeds, Michigan, Illinois, and Baylor. If any school needs to drop out of the tournament because of COVID-19 matters, it must do so by tomorrow night or its game will get forfeited. 4 schools on standby in case any team has to bow out. With so many offices in the country still largely vacant, 8% fewer Americans are expected to fill out brackets than in the last NCAA tournament, according to the American Gaming Association. Jared Max, Fox News.
Wall Street at the close, stocks bounced back from a wobbly start for a 5th day of gains. The Dow gained 174, the Nasdaq added 139, the S&P plus 25. I'm Lisa Lacera, and this is Fox News.
When running, if you're looking for work, it's a process of elimination, and you're trying not to be eliminated. So here's a tip for making the cut, and this might seem subtle, but to the person interviewing you, it's not. There is a world of difference between applicants who convey, I need a job, and those who simply ooze, I want to work, especially in these lean times when many you're competing with will seem desperate in I'll take anything mode. If you convey specific interest in this job at this company, you will be conspicuous. Thus, the value of going to school on the company you're applying to before the interview. With money and attention so tight now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips for job seekers and everyone else, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
The victims of a devastating tornado expressed gratitude that The Onion's 3-part series on the disaster was reported with fairness, accuracy, and an unusual degree of sensitivity. Survivors said they were at least thankful for one thing, that The Onion put much more care and insight into their reporting of the tragedy than any competing newspaper, by far. In economic news, a Pulitzer Prize would very much help certain newspapers increase their circulation, resulting in greater ad sales and more revenue to pay their tireless, hardworking reporters, all of whom have families at home to care for. In other headlines, a group known as Americans for Fairness in Awarding Journalism Prizes is asking all Americans to help The Onion receive a Pulitzer Prize. An anonymous man says he will murder 50 innocent people if The Onion is not awarded a Pulitzer. And look at it, it's beautiful. Look, just give us a Pulitzer already, okay? This is humiliating. For more prize-worthy stories and videos, go to theonion.com/review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Here they come, cruising up your street. They get the funniest looks from everyone they meet. Hey, it's Free Talk Live.
Here we are.
People say we do a live talk radio program where you could call in and take control of the airwaves.
You can.
The telephone number to do so,
most won't,
is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. Yeah, there's still this radio stigma, I guess, to folks
radio stigma.
Yeah, to folks who call
it
it
a Queen song.
All we hear is radio stigma.
Yeah.
No, it's Radio Gaga. Folks get nervous is really all I'm saying when they call into radio shows.
Oh, yeah. It's
not everybody.
That's not stigma. That's anxiety. Stigma is when you're either, well, you're stigmatized when you're shamed for something and
right, but people become all sorts of self-conscious knowing that their voice is being broadcast.
Self-consciousness is not
over
stigma. Stigma is related to a judgment made about the person either by himself or by somebody else.
Thank you, Captain Vocabulary.
Citizen Arcane.
I sit corrected.
Nobody knows big words.
No, nobody certainly does.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Pneumono-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis.
Ooh, wow.
That's right.
That's pretty good.
I had to spell
that
that once. It's also known as black lung.
Oh, man.
It's the disease of inhaling quartz dust. Miners, not M-I-N...
Quartz of the stuff.
O-R-S, but
even
M-I-N-E-R-S.
a pint of dust will mess you up.
Yes. So coal miners and other assorted miners, M-I-N-E-R-S, not M-I-N-O-R-S.
Gotcha.
Would get this disease, and so pneumono-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis is the actual term for it, but nobody could pronounce that or remember how to spell it or whatever.
I mean, good God, if you had the bloody disease, you couldn't keep your breath up long enough to say that word. That's just cruel. That's like naming Lisp what they did. So if you've got one, you can't say it. That's just cold.
Hey, I got some numbers for you.
Yeah, so in the previous segment, we were talking about the number of folks killed.
Well, we didn't know
by police, and there throughout time
Nobody knew.
There have been websites and studies and all this sort of thing put up, and now you have data.
Yeah, because nobody had said in the last segment that he thought maybe the number of police shootings and abuses had gone down in 2020 due to all the hubbub in the summertime, the protests, for instance, etc.
Since they burned down the police station in Minneapolis.
Suggesting that somehow these things were
such joy to watch.
That somehow these things, I don't disagree, it was fun to watch that, but unfortunately it hasn't done anything to slow the police violence. According to mappingpoliceviolence.org, police killed 1,127 people in the year 2020, compared to, because you got to compare it, to 2019. According to prisonpolicy.org, the police killed 1,099 people in 2019, and in 2018, I saw that it was just below 1,000. So it's been about 1,000 a year, but it's been rising over the last few years. So actually, the police killings went up in the year 2020 as compared to the previous 2 years.
What was the number in 2020?
2020, according to mappingpoliceviolence.org, it is 1,127 people in the United States. That does not include the rest of the planet.
1,127. So
that is correct. More than in 2019 and 2018.
I'm looking for the date.
You know, there used to be some sites that tracked this sort of thing.
It is. It's mapping.
And if nobody else, it's still okay. It is still there.
Yeah, The Counted used to be one, and I can only find an article that references the data, but it seems to have stopped in 2016 for some reason. Perhaps it was, I don't know. There is no website.
Further, this website has some more interesting breakdowns. It also has like a heat map where it plays the entire year from start to finish, and it shows you pop all over the map, like where all the police killings are happening, which is pretty wild.
As a compliment to your, and I don't mean, yes, thank you, you did a good job on bringing up there. That's not what I mean by a compliment. But this from prisonpolicy.org, published June 5th of 2020. There's no question that the number of police killings of civilians in the U.S. who are disproportionately black and other people of color are the result of policies and practices that enable and even encourage police violence. Compared to police in other wealthy countries, American police kill civilians at an incredibly high rate.
That's correct, yeah.
In the United States, this is number of people killed by law enforcement per 10 million in the most recent years. So if this was published in 2020, this is probably 2019 numbers, would be 33.5 per 10 million in the United States.
Nothing else is even close.
Nothing else is even close. Canada's next with 9.8.
Now, this is in quote-unquote democracies or wealthy countries.
Other wealthy countries is what this is labeled.
Yeah. So they've only killed like 10 in Japan.
0 in Iceland.
Yeah, actually, on this chart, Japan,
Iceland has only had one police killing in history, as far as I know.
On this chart, Germany comes in at 1.3 per 10 million. England and Wales comes in at a half a person per 10 million, and Japan comes in at 0.2, 2/10 of a person.
I gotta say, I feel sorry. What country was that with a half?
England and Wales.
I feel sorry for that guy because they only half killed him, and then he had to limp around. At least put him out of his misery. Finish your business if you're going to do it.
Ian, you were saying?
There were just other interesting statistics on here from 2020. There were only 18 days in the year where police did not kill someone.
They must have been on vacation. Don't they get like 3 weeks?
Blacks are 3 times more likely to be killed by the police than white people, and 1.3 times more likely to be unarmed as compared to white people.
Also, surprise.
You're 5 times.
Maybe there's a relationship there. Maybe they're more likely to be killed because they're less likely to be armed.
You are 5 times more likely to be killed by police in Oklahoma than you are in Georgia, apparently. And there's no accountability. 98.3% of killings by police from 2013 through 2020 have not resulted in officers being charged with a crime. Now, remember, that's only if the officer is charged. There's even fewer cases where the officers are actually convicted of a crime.
But the egregious thing is them not getting charged. Because what that means is prosecutors who do anything but prosecute police will tell you, I can indict a ham sandwich.
Sure.
That is a traditional phrase. Because but not just a conviction, because the conviction isn't entirely in their hands. But any prosecutor who wants an indictment is going to get an indictment. And the reason they're not getting indictments off these people, they're buddies throwing these trials. But I'll tell you what, I would like to do an experiment. Somebody should take one of those killer cops, slice them thin, put them on bread, see if they can indict them then. Because they say they can do a ham sandwich.
Is that a sliced pork sandwich? You mentioned 2019, the United States had 1,099, right?
That's what the website you're looking at said.
No, but you had mentioned it as well. You mentioned, and so just for comparison, no other country on this list is even in triple digits. So if the United States...
These are only the quote-unquote wealthy countries, however.
Right. But if the United States killed, police officers killed 1,099 people, next on the list is Canada at 36.
Okay, so we're always talking about the problems. Oh, God, look how bad it is. Oh, God, look how bad it is. Now, this is a time when it's a good idea to talk about what can you do? And there are answers to that now.
Lay them on me.
Well, one answer, one that I'm devoting myself full time, is cell 411. What if you get pulled over and you're in enough cells that you push that button and 20 of your closest friends come out of the woodwork before they can beat you like a red-headed stepchild? That's an improvement.
That is definitely something that I have a high degree of interest in, Nobody. Thank you for your efforts on that. 603-283-6160. What happens when you call the cops?
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Look, I'm sorry, but you're in for a world of pain if you use Koinomi. The reason is their wallet doesn't support payments. The solution is simple. Let them hear your voice. Message Koinomi on Twitter, it takes 5 seconds, and tell them AnyPay sent you, because they're on the fence right now, and your voice will prove that people care about using Bitcoin for payments. Go tweet at Koinomi now, or even better, leave a review in the App Store. They really pay attention there. Thanks.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Free Talk Live.
When there are cameras around, it doesn't make a difference. There were people with video cameras all over this event yesterday.
It looked like these people were trying to get away,
Yes,
honestly.
they were. Yes, they were. They were being shot.
People rushing towards the cop phalanx.
Nope.
That's right.
They were trying to get away.
And those batons weren't rubber like the bullets were.
They were either trying to get away or they were members of the news media trying to cover the event.
Right.
Police are supposed to be there to protect and serve.
Allegedly.
Allegedly to be peace officers. And instead, they're creating war.
And, of course, the chief of police is claiming he'll investigate. What they're going to investigate, I don't know. It's going to be very difficult to identify the officers in this video footage because there were so many of them. Mm-hmm. There was an army of police officers out there, and every single one of them was participating in the attack on unarmed, innocent people.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back to the program. Welcome back to the show. It is Free Talk Live. If you're a first-time listener or you've just tuned in, you can find out all about us at freetalklive.com. Some of the radio stations that carry the program do not carry us 7 days a week, but we do broadcast 7 days a week. So if you like the show, you like the characters, you like the content that we bring, you can listen to us online over at freetalklive.com or at lrn.fm. We also broadcast across a whole bunch of social media channels. How many do we got now? 8, 9, 10?
Social media? I have no idea.
Didn't you
talk about the video channels?
Yeah, you just added a bunch of video channels.
Yeah, I don't consider those to be social media, although some of them have chat rooms associated, so I guess it's kind of social. But yeah, we're on like 5 or 6 different video
We're all over
systems.
the place. We're worldwide on the web. So if you do want to call on the show, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
It's Ian.
And nobody with a little bit of hope for humanity. The next time you're arguing with a socialist about, no, the current system is socialism. No, the current system is capitalism. No, the current system is socialism, which we frequently, that's what the arguments devolve into.
Indeed.
It gives me hope to reflect that at least both sides of that fight are smart enough to hate the system we have.
That's a good point.
They both want to get rid of it. And the reality is it doesn't really matter that much what the other guys want to do after the boogaloo or what you want to do after the boogaloo, because the reality is the world's going to turn out the way it turns out. Yeah. And neither you nor I are going to have much impact on what happens to the world. What we're going to have some impact on is what happens in our immediate area. Mm-hmm. So if Vermont goes socialist and secedes, and New Hampshire goes capitalist and secedes, I'm all for it. And as a matter of fact, I would probably voluntarily show up and work with their militia if, for example, the feds were trying to take them back and not take us back for some reason. Maybe they good riddance to those damn capitalists.
Yeah, there oftentimes seems to be a competition, or at least it appears to me that there's a competition amongst libertarians, voluntarists, anarchists even, that I'm more X than you are, right? I'm more libertarian than you are because my philosophy is blah, blah, blah. And that's
why I want to take over the Pirate Party, Because people are always, you're not a real libertarian. You're not a real libertarian. But if people say you're not a real pirate, you just say, arr.
I always say to these folks, look, we agree that the state is something that needs to go away, right? Mm-hmm. And generally they go, yep, as long as they're a voluntarist anarchist or libertarian. And so my bit then is just, well, let's get to that point first. And then we can figure out all the subgenres of, music, if you will.
You know how you could actually finance?
Are you pointing your finger guns at me?
I'm pointing my finger gun at you.
All right. No,
I'm talking to you.
What was the question?
One way this would be an interesting way to finance the pirate party. There's a pirate coin
with booty.
There's a pirate coin out there that's like at 30 cents or something like that. So here's what you do. You buy like $50,000 worth of that coin, and then basically the rest of financing the party just comes down to getting all the members of the party to convince other people to use that coin to increase demand for it, and thereby magnify this investment that you've put into the pirate party. So basically, it's a way of doing part of a little bit of your financing up front, and then continuing to finance in very small amounts by just spending it like you would Bitcoin Cash. And by doing that, you could make that organization actually powerful if you can get enough people on board.
Ladies and gentlemen, nobody with today's coin advice.
Nobody thinks of things like this.
We'll talk more about what we were talking about, which is police. And in fact, we have a caller. His name is Steve, calling from North Carolina. Steve, you are on Free Talk Live.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey Steve, what's on your mind?
Hey, so going back to that conversation you were having before the break about some of the police things, I think an important part of this is that the prosecutors a lot of times charge these police with crimes that they know damn well they're not going to get a conviction on. I mean, you look at what's going on in Minnesota right now. They're not going to get a third-degree murder charge on Chauvin. I mean, the Minnesota law just doesn't add up. It's not going to work. So Chauvin's probably going to walk, and it's not going to matter because they over-prosecuted him, and that's why he's going to get off. In all likelihood, he'll get off scot-free.
And that's not an accident. That's not an accident. These prosecutors are professionals.
That's an important part of the conversation, no?
Huh?
It's an important part of the conversation, though.
It is.
It's not necessarily that the cops are always walking scot-free because they've got buddies in high places. Well, yes, that absolutely does happen.
But it was a buddy in a high place who decided to overcharge him, so he got off.
Well,
that's the way war is deception. You know, when you are large, appear small. When you're small, appear large.
In the case of Minnesota, they're overcharging him to meet popular demand. They think that they can win the masses over by overcharging this guy. And in all reality, it's probably going to end up in a hung jury or some sort of total acquittal. And it's only going to upset people even more. So it's just it's a mess.
Well, what I'd like to know is whether Wisconsin has an open murder statute.
It's Minnesota.
Minnesota has an open murder statute. Open murder is basically you charge someone with homicide, but you don't even speculate as to what the degree is. That becomes a matter for the jury.
Oh.
So then basically you get as much as you can sell. If a statute like that exists in Wisconsin, that is certainly what this cop should have been charged under, because you never know what juries are going to do with cops. There are some deluded souls out there that genuinely love these monsters.
Well, I think, that's definitely the case. But I think more times than not, you see, especially with public cases like all of these, a lot of these things that have gone on over the past couple of years that happen to be white officer on African-American male, the prosecution overcharges so that they can try to make a big deal out of it, and it normally ends up blowing up in their face.
Okay, can we keep this guy for next segment?
Yeah, you want to hang on, Steve?
Yeah.
Steve? All right, cool. I'm going to put you back on hold. We'll have more about this coming up on Free Talk Live. It's Minnesota, not Wisconsin, just to be clear to our audience. Even though their accents are very similar. Don't you know? Oh, yeah, don't you know
they're like next to each other.
We'll get 2 or 3 of them together and they talk the same.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
our triumphant return to the radio airwaves as well as internet streams and some satellite channels.
We're back the same day we left.
We're back. Yes, it's only been 4 minutes since you last heard us, unless, of course, you're just tuning in which case you're in the right place for Free Talk Live, the live call-in radio talk show program where you can take control of the airwaves. We'll get back to your calls in just a moment. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me,
it's Ian.
And the nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And we were having...
Or what's left of him.
We were having a discussion with a caller from North Carolina about the Chauvin trial, and he wanted to comment on more on what that means as far as the police goes and how it relates to our conversation earlier.
Okay.
Steve, you are back on, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just want to make sure you're there. Go ahead, nobody.
Do you remember what his point was when he was getting off the air? Because he said something I remember wanting to answer it.
Let's ask him ourselves. Steve, do you remember your point?
Yeah, we were talking about overcharging. I mean, I think it's clear that Keith Ellison's goal in Minnesota is either to get this guy convicted, that'll be great, or let him walk so that all hell will break loose. And to me, it seems like the latter, because what they've charged Chauvin with, I don't think they'll find a jury that will charge him without any reasonable doubt based on some of the evidence that the defense has. And I've been watching the jury selection all last week and then today. I don't see it happening. And I think in this case, he's probably going to walk, and then it'll be another situation of a cop not getting charged for a death. But they were not. I don't think the intent is ever to charge.
It depends.
I don't see him getting charged.
I think it depends on how they watch that video, though. If it does end up to trial, because the thing is, what I picked up from that was that he intended to kill him from the beginning. I don't know why, but he looked like a guy who was trying to kill a guy, to me. Everything in his behavior.
I mean,
and
you need 12 people to all agree with that.
He knew this cat. They worked together at a bar. So I don't know. I think it could be any number of things, but I think there's more to the story, because everything in that guy's manner and attitude and the way he was dealing with things and just staring off into the crowd like, yeah, I'm just waiting for this guy to die. I don't know. It creeped me out is what it did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with, I think, the majority of folks who think this guy needs to be, some form of justice needs to occur here.
Never going to happen.
I'm
with the caller on this. This whole thing's set up.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anything's going to happen. It also occurs to me as a tangent that anybody who supports this guy is a chauvinist.
Yeah, I think it's definitely true in this case.
Probably a chauvinist pig.
So many other cases
Certainly.
where police have clearly done something violent and uncalled for, and if you get charges, they're almost never going to stick. They're going to be reduced. They're not going to get found convicted or guilty of that, which is why, a fraction of the police who are even ever charged, which most police are never charged, as we learned earlier, but a fraction of those who are charged are ever found guilty. It's almost impossible. So they just do these things just to try to assuage people, try to make it look like, well, we're doing something. Well, we tried. We charged him.
Well, the system, I guess, is imperfect.
They spend millions on a trial, and it'd be much easier for the family to spend $50,000 and just get it fixed.
Steve?
So the question is, though, who's responsible for this? Because, Keith Ellison is I would think, would want there to not be a conviction for political purposes.
You just reminded me what you wanted, what I wanted to talk about, which is that I've been following police brutality for a long time, for like 10 years, okay? And I've been following it not with an eye to color, because that's not really my issue, although I've changed my position on that. There was a time when I would not have been when I looked askance at like Black Lives Matter, and I don't anymore. I understand now why they specify black. But the thing is, I've been watching reports of police brutality, and the first thing that you notice about them is they always get buried by the media. Okay, and that went on for like 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 4 years ago, all of a sudden, the media started covering killings by police,
right?
Which they would normally just sweep under the carpet. But the kicker was, I was watching this happen for years, and it always happened to all races of people. And it continued happening to all races of people. But when the media decided to suddenly start talking about it for a minute, when it served their propaganda purposes, the only ones they talked about were black. And they deliberately created the illusion that this is entirely a black problem, when Duncan Lemp is just as dead.
Right.
But at the same time, I understand why they feel the need to hear Black Lives Matter, because we said all men are created equal and we didn't include them. And then we said liberty and justice for all and we didn't include them. So sooner or later, it's fair for them to say, hey, do you mind just letting me know if all includes black folks this time? That's a reasonable question to ask, because although you're not morally responsible for the acts of your ancestors, as a matter of reputation, you also can't escape that. Yes, people will associate you with your ancestors no matter who you are.
Your thoughts, Dave?
No, totally, and I'm right up with you there on Black Lives Matter and that whole thing. So the real question is now with Chauvin, is this guy even get a fair trial? Because to me, it seems like now with was it a $27 million payoff to the family?
Guilty or innocent, he's not going to get a fair trial, because everybody, myself included, has made their mind up about this account based on their politics. And so the question is, can they stack the jury right wing, or do they stack the jury left wing? Voidier is going to tell the tale. Huh?
I mean, he no matter what you think of the guy, he should be given a fair trial. What do you do in a situation where you can't give somebody a fair trial? That's a question that I haven't heard anybody talk about.
That's a good question.
I mean, if I was in that situation and I had to do it, I'd just have to remember that when they took me, I didn't get a fair trial either, so screw them.
Okay, so eye for eye, tooth for tooth?
Huh?
Eye for eye, tooth for tooth?
So eye for eye, tooth for tooth.
Well, I didn't declare war on them. They declared war on me, and to me, when one falls, it's just one enemy soldier down.
Hey, thanks for the call today,
because
Steve.
they will continue to harm me until somebody either makes them stop, either by firing them or otherwise.
I mean, it happens frequently when there's a highly publicized case, and it goes to jury. I mean, are any of those trials fair? What is a fair trial? What's the definition of a fair trial? What does the state think a definition of a fair trial is? Because I'm sure it's different than my definition.
Yeah, well, their definition is all the money they can steal from the whole state against how much money one guy can raise.
Mm-hmm. Thanks again for the call, Steve. We appreciate it. This is Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. We've got more of tonight's Monday Night Edition coming up.
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations.
We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at lrn.fm? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at lrn.fm. That's lrn.fm. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
603-283-6160. We might not be able to get you in. We've got some calls on hold, but save that number. We're on 7 nights a week here at Free Talk Live. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
It's Ian.
And nobody. Can I do a brief commercial?
No.
Okay, fine.
I've got to double up here on a couple of things. Forkfest 2021 is coming up. You can join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for Forkfest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Forkfest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and Forkfest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge.
By the way, you mentioned the Porcupine Freedom Festival there. they're putting out news that they have more tickets sold to the Porcupine Freedom Festival this year already than sold in total in the year 2020. So it looks like the Porcupine Freedom Festival is going to be very well attended with over 1,000 tickets already sold. That, I think, is going to bode well for Forkfest because Forkfest has no tickets and it's the week after. So it should be a big year for Forkfest.
And if it continues to go as it has been, this is going to be a very good year because we went through some rough spots for a few years there, and now it's like everybody's just there to have fun. Nobody seems to care about any of it anymore.
All you got to do is reserve your camping RV site or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? If you are planning an event for Forkfest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow Forkfesters on the unofficial Telegram chat or the Forkfest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021, and we'll see you at forkfest.party. Also, I need to say thank you to Liberty is Life. Liberty is Life is a silver-level amplifier for this radio program that you're listening to. What is an amplifier, you might ask? Well, it's somebody who contributes a dollar amount on a monthly basis to help get this radio program that you're listening to right now onto more radio stations. We're currently on 185 or so stations. Mm-hmm. We could be on 200. We could be on 250 stations. It's all up to you. Please consider contributing to us over at amp.freetalklive.com. We only ask for $5 a month. You can contribute more. There's a couple different levels, and you get some neat perks for your contributions. So please visit amp.freetalklive.com. And thanks again to Liberty is Life. We appreciate you supporting what we do here. Let's go right away to your calls. And we have Richard, who's calling from Florida. Richard, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, I been listening since like 2004 or something.
Thanks.
And I really miss Mark.
Don't you need to sleep?
Like he always put a I don't know, just a different perspective that wasn't so I don't know, rooted
libertarian.
in just like people walking around the town, you know, like with cameras.
Mark is still around, just not as frequently. He does what I call gallivanting. He goes from place to place. He's searching for places where, men might consider themselves more free. And so,
well, you can tell
where the men are men and the
and
sheep are
it's
scared.
Kind of sad.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you both. You were talking at the same time.
Go ahead, Richard.
It just seems like Mark's kind of breaking away because, like, the way the direction is going.